They provided the assist for Kelechi Iheanacho to strike home to perfectly set up the second leg. We just heard briefly from Matt Elliott, but Matt, former League Cup winner with the Foxes, has been on hand throughout the evening. Matt, what's your considered view of the first leg?
Yeah, well, all things considered, both sides are, I would say, reasonably content. Less so Leicester, of course. They were looking to get a victory tonight. They'll be frustrated that they weren't able to penetrate more, to create more opportunities, and on the small amount of chances that they did create, that they weren't more clinical, able to extend goalkeeper Nyland more regularly and to a greater extent. But they'll look at it and go back to the drawing board and assess what they could have done better. For me, if they're going to put cross after cross into the box, they've got to have more options, more presence in there as well. Mings and his two teammates alongside him had a field day really in terms of dealing with those crosses. They were relishing the balls that were being delivered, and Leicester never really got across them or delivered the equality that was required. But I think all things considered, Brendan Rodgers will be slightly frustrated but not too unhappy, because I think they've got more to offer in the away leg. All to play for. Villa have done a job in their eyes. They'll be well pleased with their night's work, but I think the real work begins in a couple of weeks' time.
And who gets your nod as the Leicester City star man this evening?
Tells a tale, I think, really, that there aren't that many options. You look through it, the back three weren't particularly extended, were they? So I won't really consider them or Kasper Schmeichel. For me, the player who showed most enterprise and most energy really was that man again, Ricardo. I think Maddison tried to get on the ball and have an influence, but possibly a shout for him there. Other than that, no one really stood out, so the little Portuguese man gets it again, I'm afraid.
The 100th meeting between Aston Villa and Leicester serves up the 25th draw for the Foxes. Now just one defeat in their last 14 here at King Power Stadium. For the neutral, the second leg is finally poised. There is more to come from Matt. We'll hope to hear from Brendan Rodgers, who's just vanished down the tunnel. He'll be speaking to Dan shortly, so too some of the players involved. We'll also get analysis from Tony Cottee, Jerry Taggart and Richard Stearman, reviewing this one and previewing the second leg over in the studio with Lewis.
Thanks a lot, John. Yes, more from Matt Elliott to come, but let's get the thoughts of the boys, Richard Stearman and Jerry Taggart, on the way very shortly. But Tony, earlier today you said semi-finals, they're never really classics, and so it turned out.
Well, it wasn't a classic, was it? The game was exactly what I thought it would be. I've got to say, I think Villa performed better than what I thought they would. They're having let's be honest, they're having a really difficult season, but they came here, they had their plan defensively and how they was going to hit Leicester on the counter-attack. I think in the first half they was excellent, caused a lot of problems for Leicester. They found it very frustrating, very difficult. But overall in the second half it was a better performance from Leicester. The changes were made, good changes, which changed the game. And I think it was a fair result. I don't think anyone really can say anything other than that was a fair result, because Villa were better in the first half, Leicester were better in the second half. Yeah,
Richard, we were watching the game and with about half an hour to go, kind of said it's a long time for Villa to sit so far back behind the ball and defend, but you said equally it's very difficult to break down.
It is, yeah. We spoke about it. The Villa, their shape was excellent. They dropped into a back five straight away, so it was hard to sort of break the lines and get down them around the sides. And yeah, Leicester really struggled to sort of get in behind and get down them around the sides. Like I say, it was a tough watch at times, wasn't it? It was sort of attack v defence. Villa just clearing everything, giving it back to Leicester, and then Leicester struggling to break them down. It was, they just nullified each other, really, didn't they?
Yeah, you said it was almost like that training exercise that you use, where attack versus defence, and every time you win the ball, give it back to the attacking team.
I mean, we've all probably done it a few times. Jerry's probably coached it as well. You overload the team attacking constantly, the defensive team win the ball back, you give it back to the attackers and you go again. It sort of just felt like that sort of night, that was what we were watching.
Yeah, the one time that Leicester really did get a bit of space to play, Jerry, they capitalised, and Iheanacho, with pretty much his first telling touch of the game, delivered.
I'll just go back to what Richard said. It was attack-free defence for literally the whole of that second half. And how was the goal scored? By Villa sticking to a principle that in that second half they had no right to stick to. And they've only themselves to blame. You know, it took them 30 seconds to take that free kick in the first place. And we all know what Leicester have been like this season on the high press. They invite you to play that ball. And the longer it took to take that free kick,
picking up a booking in the process.
The more you thought, this spells big trouble. You know, they've done okay, Villa. Although they never had a shot on target in the second half. Kasper Schmeichel must be absolutely freezing going into that dressing room. But as soon as you seen that happen and they tried to force it, you knew Leicester would just, something was going to happen. Thankfully, Iheanacho's come on again and contributed massively in a positive fashion to get his team back level. But you've got to say it about Aston Villa. What are you doing? You know, kamikaze football at times.
Yeah, also, let's bring Matt back in, who's in the King Power Stadium still. Matt, Hamza Chowdhury there forced the issue and made it happen.
Yeah, it's a large part of Hamza's game. Fair play to him, but Jerry says, I mean, they're dicing with death there, aren't they, Villa? Unnecessary. What are you thinking? You saw Tyrone Mings berating, and that's putting it mildly, Douglas Luiz after the goal had been conceded. He was saying that, Douglas, what were you thinking there? Why are you getting it there? What benefit was it? You know, consider the state of the game, the way things were unfolding, the game plan that they come with. They'd got a little bit of respite, as you said, and Konsa was deliberating over the free kick, got himself the yellow card. Don't compound that misfortune or that mistake by offering Leicester a chance, an opportunity back into the game. Just clip it into an area, squeeze up for once in the second half, buy yourself a bit of time, a bit of a respite, and then you can go again. But they've handed it to Leicester on a plate there, an avenue back into certainly this game, and then in consequence the tie overall. Don't get me wrong, if Leicester were 1-0 down, even at home, a defeat, I think they would still be in contention, but all of a sudden, the game could have really turned on its head. And don't get me wrong, it was a wonderful play by, from a defensive midfield aspect from Chowdhury to go. He's so fleet of foot and sharp to get into those challenges. Dennis Pratt, who was in the first, wouldn't have made that challenge. Tillemans wouldn't have made that challenge. So that's where Chowdhury can have the influence. Vardy's ball into Iheanacho, I thought it was better than it was initially, actually. Initially, I thought it was a wonder ball, but on reflection, it was a decent ball, but I thought the option was to run into space. Iheanacho's done superbly. The touch out of his feet, and another one to make a little bit of space, and he pulls a shot across himself. And, that was encouragement that was very, very grateful from Leicester's point of view, but totally unnecessary from the visitors.
Yeah, Tony, you said when we were sitting there watching it, as soon as Iheanacho got the ball, you knew what was going to happen.
Well, he's a finisher, isn't he? He's one of them players, I think, with goal scorers. Sometimes you get frustrated. I'm sure, like, man next to me used to get frustrated, and the one in the stadium, but get frustrated with goal scorers because sometimes they don't contribute a lot else. Like they're not always in the game, not always involved up in the build-up play because you want to score the goals. But as soon as the ball arrived at his feet, it was a very good pass from Jamie Vardy. It was an early pass, which meant that he got the ball in the right position. But it was like one touch, two touch, bang, and as soon as he was in the box, I was standing up before he'd even put it in the net because you knew the ball was going in the back of the net. As a next goal scorer, you knew that once it's at his feet, bang, it's going in there. He's got faults to his game. We know that Iheanacho, but in terms of finishing, he's a very, very good finisher. And it's a priceless goal as well because it really changes the dynamic of the second leg.
Yeah, Tony talks about the early pass there, Richard, and that was the thing that Leicester at times were missing. It was quite slow in their build-up, but a lot down to probably the lack of space to be able to play.
Yeah, I think Villa obviously, they were architects of their own downfall, weren't they? They fanned out and opened up for once in the game and gave the ball away, and it was yeah, it was a gift for Leicester, and Vardy's, it was an early pass, but he punched it in as well, didn't he? He passed all the time and the space over to Iheanacho, and he finished it really well, didn't he? And one of the only times that Leicester really got a player 1-on-1 or 2-on-1, as it were, and he managed to finish it off.
Yeah, you talk about the punchiness of the pass, Jerry, there. What we saw as soon as Leicester scored, the football was a lot more slick, and it was more one-touch, two-touch, bang.
Yeah, but I think by that time, both sets of players are pretty much out on their feet. Leicester did look the fitter side, you have to say. So then, when tiredness creeps in, yes, that punchy passing comes, and you just seen once or twice in that second half they were forcing it a little bit for me. But I think also there was times when Leicester could have hit Villa on the counter-attack in that second half, and they would get so far up the pitch and then it would come back, and you could hear the fans getting a little bit frustrated in the stands as well with that there. But overall, I think you're right to say that the passing wasn't slick enough. Obviously moving Tielemans further up the pitch, dropping Perez in, and then obviously Iheanacho coming in and doing that. It obviously helped. That's the third time this season that teams have come and done a job. We haven't lost the game, we've drawn it. And it's the third time it's happened. Last season would have probably lost that game 1-0. Where, they've showed good resilience to come back into the game, get the goal, and try and push for the winner. It just didn't happen tonight. But, as we've all been saying, it's only half time in this competition. So there's a lot more to look forward to.
Yeah, that's what Patricia says. Still all to play for. The Foxes had a few chances, but just wasn't their night. Obviously, all to play for at Villa Park is the overriding message from lots of people getting in touch. If you've got a question that you'd like to put to the boys tonight, then please do get in touch, and we'll get through as many of them as possible before tonight. Matt, who is anyone happier with that result?
Well, yeah, Villa will be the happier of the two, won't they? I think Leicester will have the sort of consolation that they've been behind in the game, and all of a sudden they're back on level peggings now, and feel that they've certainly got more than a good chance of still going through. But Villa to come away from here, they won't expect to come away from here with a draw. Gary Thompson, who obviously was mentioned on the show earlier, who was reporting here for Aston Villa on the radio, said before, if we come away with a 1-0 defeat, we're not unhappy. And that gives you an indication of the mindset of Aston Villa supporters and possibly players as well. So they wanted to be in the tie. They're right in it, aren't they? They'll be buoyed by the fact that they were able to nullify Leicester. But it's a different proposition when perhaps the onus is on them to be a little bit more adventurous in the second leg. Will that be the case? When they're egged on by that home crowd, are they going to get a little bit brave? Is that bravery going to turn into foolishness? I don't know. It'll be a little bit cat and mouse still in the second leg, wouldn't it? And it'll only be probably the latter stages that things really open up. But a real intriguing encounter lies in waiting, doesn't it? And both teams will fancy their chances.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about Aston Villa being more adventurous, do you see a change of style from Leicester for the second leg, seeing as both teams kind of filled each other out today?
No, I don't so much see it from Leicester. I certainly see it from Aston Villa. They can't play that same way at home and keep their fans happy. I think they're going to have to come out a little bit and try and be the aggressor and go on and try and win the tie. Whereas I think Leicester, they'll probably set up in a similar manner and take the game to Aston Villa. And
in terms of that style that we saw today, Jerry, it was one at half-time kind of questioning whether it was the right thing to do. What would have been learned lessons-wise?
Yeah, listen, I think, Brendan obviously has his reasons for picking that formation. As I said, it worked a treat away at Newcastle, the same kind of formation. But, Villa are a team who've played this formation all season, I think, or for the vast majority of the season anyway. And Tony hit the nail on the head. They were just better at playing the system than Leicester were, especially when it's all right cancelling each other out, but when you're the aggressor, when you have the lion's share of possession and you're at home in front of your own fans and you're coming up against a team who, are pretty adept at playing that way, then something you have to do something else. And I get what he says that we've got better players than that, but Villa played the system better, especially in that first half. So for me, I'd like to see Brendan go back to the formation that he's played for the majority of the season, where we've seen goals, free flowing, creativity from all over the pitch, not relying on Maddison or Tielemans. I mean, from both wide areas. Because I think that's what will get him the win, especially playing against a back three. If you've got wide players, then you have the opportunity to create 2v1s down the sides. And tonight that just didn't happen.
It's something that you could look at as an excuse and say it's the same for both teams, etc. But in terms of Leicester's free-flowing football, the weather was relentless tonight, wasn't it? It wasn't a game where you think it's going to be a really beautiful game of football.
I said the tags, the weather was perfect for playing football. We're not going to make excuses about the weather. Honestly, what a great night under the floodlights, pouring down the rain, League Cup semi-final. Like that was, for me, that was amazing conditions. The weather wouldn't have played anything to do with that. It was, I think, to start with, for whatever reason, Brendan's gone with the back three. I'm guessing that he's thought we'll try and match them. They play the back three. We'll put exactly the same formation out, and we got better players, which is true. But where Villa have played it more, then they seem to be more organised. They knew what they was doing. Tielemans was out of position, which caused problems. For me, as soon as Chowdhury come on, Leicester were much better balanced. You had a player playing in a position that knows what he's doing. There's nothing worse as a footballer being asked to play in a position and it's not your position. Listen, I know Matt did it brilliantly. You go up and try, but you tell him he'd rather play as a centre half where you know what you're doing. You're in a position, you're comfortable, you're doing what you're good at. There's nothing worse with being asked to play in a position. Yes, you do it for the team, and the manager tells you, you give it your best and you try your hardest. But when you're out of position, it's difficult, and it was hard for Tielemans trying to do that Ndidi role. So really, I think that it's all right playing the three at the back, but Chowdhury was the one, and as soon as he came in that second half, there was a much better balance to the Leicester team.
Yeah, the thing he picked up at half-time was the fact that usually Ndidi will pick up those second balls, and Chowdhury was always looking for those, wasn't he?
Well, that's
where the goal came from, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a gift. But, and not a lot of people want to do that role, do they? Let's face it.
But it's so important, Tags,
and it's so important. And I'm not saying that would have happened, but I just go back and I can remember game after game after game after game where Wilfred Ndidi is in that position where the ball's just bounced on the edge of his box and he's the first one to it, running back towards his own goal. That is not in Tielemans' makeup. Or rather to be in the right position when the ball goes across the 18-yard box, that pass comes across the 18-yard box. Tielemans isn't the kind of midfielder who will make a diagonal run across to follow the ball and think, if that ball drops on the edge of the box, I'm first to it. It's not a slight on Tielemans because he's a lot better going forward. But if you don't have that Wilfred Ndidi / Hamza Chowdhury in there, then we see what happens, and that's how the goal was created. Yes, it's a good cross, and there's a couple of more things had to happen, but it's initially picking up the second ball on the edge of the box and keeping that move flowing.
Yeah, of course, you mentioned Wilfred Ndidi. We're not sure exactly why he wasn't in the squad tonight, but Dan Bates will hopefully be catching up with Brendan Rodgers very soon for his post-match verdict. We've had Mark get in touch saying it's all set up for Villa Park. Take a draw from that performance with all possession. Disappointed, but it's not a loss, and look forward on getting a result over there. Daniel says it's only half-time. We can play better. Formation will be different next time. Park it for a few weeks, and we've had plenty of first leg draws before. Lots of people getting in touch with very positive messages, and Kirk also agreeing with Matt Elliott's man of the match, saying Ricardo was awesome today. Richard, what were your thoughts on Ricardo? He was bandaged up, he was certainly in the wars, and really Leicester City's battler down that right hand side.
Yeah, he certainly was in the wars, wasn't he? I think he was the one player that looked most likely to get something going. He broke lines, he got past his fullback a couple of times, and put a couple of dangerous balls into the box. I think he certainly was the standout player for Leicester tonight, as he has been on several games that I've covered, and he's a very impressive player, and like I said, I think he was the one that was sort of that spark, that one player that looked like creating something.
Yeah, Matt, he was exactly what Richard was saying. He was also frustrated at points today, wasn't he, when he couldn't break through and necessarily get his way each time.
Yeah, it was difficult for him. You looked at it and you thought, okay, if you're going to play in that, I thought early on the signs were good from Leicester, for Chilwell and Ricardo. They're playing in that wing-back role, and you thought, okay, that's fine. It doesn't have to be, a cagey situation. Be let off the leash a little bit. And I thought maybe the centre-halves, if you're going to play the three centre-halves, take a little bit more responsibility. Fuchs can shift up and down, he can push in and play effectively as a left back and support Chilwell, perhaps even overlap on the odd occasion. They only had one to deal with, and Sancho can play and advance forward, but they were left, as Jerry said, a little bit isolated on their own. They got a little bit of support from Maddison and Pratt to an extent, but they're not going to bomb forward and overlap or even underlap. So they got nullified and cancelled out a lot of the time. But I just felt, I don't know, he seemed as if he was trying to probe and show energy, and he played some nice little balls, clever balls. That one in particular, he slid in Maddison when Maddison got a shot off at the near stick. He did seem a bit frustrated because he wasn't getting as much space and as many opportunities as he would have hoped for. Because for me, I think they could have both been encouraged to get further forward and sort of move away from their defensive duties as such. More onus on the centre halves, take responsibility. Sometimes even maybe defend. I know you don't want to gamble, but defend 3 against 3 on the times that Villa did break. But I don't know. I thought Leicester were a little bit overcautious in that respect at times, and in turn, it sort of blunted Ricardo's effectiveness. Even though I thought of the whole team, he probably stood out more than anyone, which I suppose tells the story, doesn't it? Because no one was at their superb best tonight, were they? It was a moderate performance in terms of Leicester City. They've got more to give, and they'll be hoping to produce that in a second.
Yeah, we'll hear from Kelechi Iheanacho very shortly, but that's an interesting point that Matt makes about the fact that, Leicester are playing with this wing-back system at home. You're expecting them to drive forward. Yeah,
it's difficult, isn't it? Nobody wants to lose this game tonight. We've seen what happened last night. So every man and their dog will have been watching that game and seen what Man City did to Manchester United at Manchester United. So nobody wants to come into the first leg of a semi-final and lose or get blown away. So there could be an element of that. But, Matt's right. Well, the attacking players that Leicester have, and from what we've seen throughout the season, it's not too much for most people to expect a little bit more from those wide players, those wing backs, and the midfielders as well. The issue, again, I'll go back to it, is when the ball went out wide, you had 2 wing backs facing each other up for the most of the night. There was no overlapping runs, underlapping runs, really, maybe here and there. But what Leicester have been brilliant at this season is stretching the game in behind, getting runners in behind. Yes, Villa defended deep, but even when they had the opportunity to do that, they didn't. They slowed the game down. You heard the crowd getting slightly frustrated, and that's probably why you hear Matt saying something like that, because we expect these players to produce a little bit more, especially on nights like tonight.
Well, it is all level going into that second leg, thanks to Kelechi Iheanacho's equaliser for Leicester City, and he's talking to Dan Bates.
Kelechi, what's the feeling in the dressing room after that?
I think we are good, so we are okay. So I think it wasn't a bad result. So we get the draw, and we should have done better. So second half we were a bit better, but I think now we need to focus on the next games.
I guess the important thing is over a 2-legged tie is to make sure you're in the tie going into that second leg.
Yeah, it's 2 legs now, so of course we have the Premier League game next, but I think we'll concentrate on that. Then when we get to Villa Park, we'll see what happens.
From a personal point of view, another goal for yourself. How did you find that?
Yeah, another goal. I'm really happy. So I got the chance and I take it. So as a striker, you need to be focused and composed in front of goal. So and the chance came and we take it. So the squad did really well in the second half, and we pressed well. That's bring the goal. So we're happy.
It was a little bit like your Everton goal here, where you got it and you cut inside back onto your left foot.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a little bit like that, but this one was a bit outside my left foot. But it was a great touch and good composure and a great finish. So everyone really worked hard. So we'll focus now on the next games.
Of course, you were heavily involved in the win at Villa Park in the Premier League last month. So will you go into that game with confidence that you can win the second leg?
Yeah, the first game is gone now, so we focus on the next game. So hopefully we'll get the win at Villa Park. That's what we want, and we really want to play in the finals.
Kelechi Iheanacho talking to LCFC Radio's Dan Bates and Jerry Taggart. Honesty's the best policy, not modesty.
Well, no, but that just shows you, I don't know, 6 months ago, you'd have been lucky to get 2 sentences out of Kelechi. And now he's banging form, isn't he? What's that, 6 goals in 8 games?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And now it's a great first touch, great finish. Thank you very much. He's buzzing with confidence, isn't he? And yet again, we have to mention it, should I say, that Brendan Rodgers made 2 subs that led to Leicester's goal. One scored it and one started the press, won the ball back, give it to Vardy. Goal. So you've got to commend Brendan Rodgers for realising what the issue was, changing it, and it's got them back in the game.
Almost more than that, Richard, though, with Brendan Rodgers, as well as obviously on the night. It's clear he's been working with Kelechi Iheanacho in building his confidence and making him know that he's very much a big part of the squad, because last season we didn't see that confidence side from him.
Yeah, and that resulted in not particularly getting many minutes or appearances. And this season he's been used a lot. Certainly in the games that I've seen, he's been used a lot. In the cup games, and he's performed very well. And taking that into league games as well, like Jerry says, 6 goals in 8 games or whatever it is. He's obviously producing the goods right now, and hopefully that can continue throughout the rest of the season, because he's a great foil for Jamie Vardy if he doesn't score.
Matt, we're going to let you get away for the evening, so your final thoughts, please, and also looking ahead to that second leg.
Oh, it's lovely. I've got a beautiful walk to the car park in the teeming rain. I can't wait. Freezing cold as well. But overall thoughts, I think, basically I look at that in terms of marks out of 10. Leicester performed 6.5, Villa 8.5, possibly, in and around that sort of mark. And I think, but even so, Leicester had the better chances. They had the better situations. They were limited by Aston Villa, who would be well pleased with their night's work. They set their stall out and achieved what they came here to achieve. But I just feel, overall, I know Tony said, it's about right result. But if you're looking at that independently, Leicester are the better side, really. They have the better players. And I think the way that the game will develop in the second leg will suit Leicester more. And I think there's every chance that Leicester will be able to strike and hurt Aston Villa when they're forced to open up a touch. And I think there's a little bit of, not pessimism, but a little bit of despondency that Leicester didn't win tonight and win convincingly. But I think things still bode well for come the second leg.
Well, Asta's been in touch actually and totally agrees with your sentiment, saying not the results City wanted, but away at Villa Park there's likely to be more gaps in the home team defence. Is that how you see it? Is they going to have a go when they're at home, Matt?
Pretty much. I mean, they're not going to come out all guns blazing, aren't they? It's going to be controlled because they're in a decent position with the scoreline as it is. But, as Richard mentioned there, that the onus is just naturally going to be more on them to play a different style of football. They're not going to camp back like they did. You wouldn't imagine so anyway. But, just naturally they're going to be a little bit more adventurous. And that's when I think Leicester are at their most lethal.
Matt Elliott, thank you for your time on Matchday Live. We will see you again soon.
Cheers, chaps. See you
Cheers,
later.
Matt.
Yeah. See you, boys.
See you, Matthew.
There we go. Right, we can head back to the tunnel where Dan Bates is talking to Leicester manager Brendan Rodgers.
Well, Brendan, the tie is very much alive. What's the assessment after that?
Yeah, I thought we played well. First half we were too slow, both in attack and when we were pressing the game. A little bit too passive. They didn't have too many opportunities. The one that they scored, we were disappointed with. We should defend that much better. But I thought first half, even though we had a couple of chances, we weren't aggressive enough, and both with the ball and without the ball. We bring Ams into the game, and I thought he was sensational when he came in, pressing, playing it, and I thought he was very, very good. And then from that second half, we were really dominant. Their keepers made some great saves. They've got some great blocks in Aston Villa, so you have to give them credit. But overall, I felt we deserved to win the game, but didn't. And like I say, we showed great mentality to come back after going behind.
You mentioned Hamza's name there. How pleased were you with your substitutions? Because obviously it led to the equaliser, Hamza winning it, Jamie playing it forward and Kelechi finishing. Yeah,
well, of course, you're assessing the game and looking at the game. And like I said, I felt we needed that aggression in the team. Wilf obviously coming out. I felt there was going to be a more football game, that the player in that position would get a lot of the ball, but we didn't use it. We didn't use it well enough and fast enough. So, and then, like I say, we didn't break any of their pressure well enough. But Hamza comes into the game. Kelechi comes in, and I know what I get from him. You know, he's so strong, so powerful, and he gives us great opportunities. To build the game and link the game, and like you see his goal. He's got great confidence now, whether he starts or comes into the game. So yeah, I thought all of the Mark Albrighton when he came on was aggressive as well, playing at a higher tempo, and yeah, it was much better.
How much of a different game are you expecting in the second leg?
Well, yeah, the first leg is always one, especially the away team will come and look to do a job and get a result. I would expect probably Aston Villa to come out a little bit more, which is obviously good for us. But even if they sit in deep, I think we've seen we can go there before and get a really good result. So yeah, we'll take that confidence into the game when we go there. And like I say, if you get to a final, you have to suffer a little bit. Okay, it's never going to be plain sailing and easy. So tonight we showed a great mentality, gone back into the game, analyse the game and where we can improve, and then we'll go to Villa Park in a couple of weeks and be really excited and hopefully finish the job.
I guess what you maybe would have said at half-time is make sure you don't lose the game from that position, which obviously you didn't. And you've got back into it, and as you say, you'll have to suffer to get to a final through these semi-finals. So overall, are you fairly happy then?
Yeah, listen, if you can't win, make sure you don't lose. There's no away goals, so it's all square. And like I say, the reaction from the players was absolutely first class. So yeah, it's one where of course you want to win it, but if you don't, it's still 50-50. And like I say, we go with the confidence knowing that we can win there. So yeah, we'll get ready for that when the time comes, and it's still a great opportunity. And like I say, I think they'll probably have to come out a little bit more, and the space will really help us.
Brendan Rodgers talking to LCFC Radio's Dan Bates after tonight's deadlock in the semi-final between Leicester City and Aston Villa. It finished 1-1 at King Power Stadium. A few interesting points that we'll talk about there, but one to clear up is about the away goals situation in the Carabao Cup semi-finals. Lots of people have been asking about this, so there are no away goals rules in this stage of the competition. If scores are level after the two legs of the semi-final, then the game goes straight to penalties. No away goal law, no extra time. So that is how things look as we go into that second leg. Quite a few people actually saying tonight's game was sort of pointless because they're saying, people do say, should there be two legs to a semi-final? But it adds to it, doesn't it?
Well, the answer to that is no, there shouldn't be, but...
Where do you play it, though?
Well, exactly.
Is it a neutral venue like in the old FA Cup days?
Yeah,
I don't know.
because it's a midweek game. I don't know. But
I think it's because of the fixture congestion. Yeah. We're all saying they're playing too many games and fixture pile-ups, and a lot of the big teams are moaning about it. But, I've always felt that the two-legged semi-final is great. I must admit, I wasn't overly aware of the away goals rule. When we played, the away goals counted, and it made a big difference. But you just kick off level again, and, that works in Leicester's favour, obviously.
And also it works in a way of, tonight, as much as it wasn't the greatest spectacle, there are quite a few little tussles going on there, and those players will be looking forward to going again and picking up those battles again, won't they, Richard?
Yeah, of course they will. They'll felt each other out, as it were, and like you said, there's some interesting matchups there, wasn't there? Some almost battle of the number 10s, wasn't it? Who would come out on top, Maddison or Grealish, and yeah, I mean, the game, like you say, it wasn't a great spectacle, was it? And but I think the semi-final last night, obviously, that one was worth having a first leg in. There was a winner in that one, so yeah, I mean, the tonight wasn't great, but we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, a few things that Brendan Rodgers pointed out. One was his disappointment with the defending for that goal that Aston Villa scored. From a defender's point of view, Tags, can you just reflect on that for us?
Well, as I said before, there was probably two or three things that happened. Obviously, when the pass comes in, the cross comes in, should I say, from Grealish, but it's more like a pass cross rather than a whip cross. And obviously, first of all, Soyuncu doesn't clear his lines, so it's a dropped. It's like he's got a toe on it, and it's an important toe, but he could have done with getting 2 or 3 toes on it instead of 1. And then after, obviously, the ball gets recycled out wide to El Ghazi, and again it's Soyuncu. He doesn't stop the cross. It's good play, you have to say, but for me the main part is Chilwell, who's in a good position. He's in front of whose name escapes me again. I forget. Gilbert. But what Gilbert does, he gambles on the cross, and that's what Chilwell should be doing. He should be gambling. He was ball watching. Yeah. And he doesn't have a look to see where Gilbert is, even though he's in a good position. He's in front of Gilbert before the ball comes in. He's ball watching. He stands still. Gilbert takes a gamble, runs across him, and beats him to the ball. And so it's easy defending, basically. It's because you're all in your positions. He's in a good position. He thinks, well, if the ball comes in, it'll come under my head and I'll clear it. No. Good players, good defenders will know where the attacking player is, and if he has to go towards the ball to clear it, he'll make sure he does that. Unfortunately, Ben just sort of stood his ground. It was too late. He was reactive rather than proactive with his defending.
Yeah, and it is that thought process, isn't it, Richard? Of course, that was really the first time Villa had really made any kind of foray into Leicester's half, and especially into that attacking position. So you need to keep your concentration levels, don't you, as a defender? Yeah, concentration is so key, isn't it, for a defender? Like Tags alluded to, he was in a good position. He was just on his heels a little bit. Didn't quite know where his man was. Didn't attack the ball with enough aggression and intensity, and the right backs nipped in and towed it in. I mean, the cross itself was great play as well. Could Soyuncu have got a little bit tighter and able to stop the cross? Maybe, but I think it was good play to get the cross in from El Ghazi, and like we've said, Chilwell, albeit in a good defensive position, didn't quite attack the ball hard enough to make the clearance or get there first.
I always tell defenders, when the ball's on its way out into a wide area, or if it's being recycled out wide, you have to have a look to know where your attacker is, and you have to then get as close as possible and even touch him, so you've got a feel for what kind of run he's going to make. Yeah, and that's exactly what Ben didn't do. He just followed the ball, and I still can't remember his name. Gilbert. He's obviously half a yard behind Ben. Ben can't feel him. He's not looking at him. He gambles. Ben doesn't.
Let's go to the other end of the field then. Brendan Rodgers also saying he was happy with the amount of opportunities Leicester created. Let's not forget, 21 shots they had in today, 6 of them finding the target. Yeah. And it was one of those games where, we've seen so many times Leicester hit 3, 4, 5, 9 in a game. And other games, they just fly in, don't they? Today, they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, you can always look at the stats and take them different ways, can't you? Like you say, sometimes you have 4 shots on goal and you score 4 goals. That can happen. Just to clarify what I said, I said that Villa, it was a fair result, but for me, like, Villa were a goal up at half time and they played the system better. So that's why I feel that they had the better of the first half, Leicester better of the second half. But you can't get away from the fact that all the chances, apart from the Villa one that hit the bar as well, all the chances were for Leicester. So, they possibly deserve to win the game from that point of view. But they just had one of those nights where their shooting wasn't... sometimes you need a little bit of luck as well. I said to Tags a couple of times, like, rather than striking the ball cleanly, You just scuff one. Maddison had one. He struck it so cleanly, hit it true, gone straight to the goalkeeper. And it went, oh, great save. But it's straight to the goalkeeper. It's going to hit him anyway. You know, sometimes if you can scuff them or delay the shot just a tiny fraction. You know, Richard, I know all about this. It's the worst thing ever as a defender. You stick your leg out, you're trying to block the shot, it goes through your legs, and it totally wrong foots the keeper, goes in the bottom corner. And there was a couple of them that could have happened. A little bit of luck, sometimes just mistime the shot, and they go in the corner and that. And all right, it's a scruffy, horrible looking goal, but they all count.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the battle of the number 10s tonight. Obviously, James Maddison was one of the players finding himself and kind of wriggling into those advanced positions. So he kind of had the better in terms of impact going forward, but Jack Grealish does look like the man who does pull the strings for Villa, and he's just got that strength that you don't necessarily really think about him straight away, do you?
Well, he is Mr. Aston Villa, isn't he? I think although they're both a similar mould of player, I think they had different roles tonight. James Maddison was the one more involved in terms of on the ball, trying to make things happen and score goals, whereas Jack was just on the ball to sort of win free kicks. I lost count of how many times he won free kicks, but you know that's a good skill to have. It took the pressure off Aston Villa's defence. It meant they could reset, waste some time. He was more in a defensive type of role as a number 10, if that's such a thing. It's an interesting matchup, isn't it? They're both fantastic players. It'll be great to see how they progress and evolve.
Mark Albrighton, someone that was plucked out by Brendan Rodgers for some praise as well during his post-match interview. Lots of people getting in touch about him as well. Rob says Albrighton is a class act, stumbled but didn't play on it. He got up and got on with it. More players could do with following his act. And Chrissy says Albrighton made such a difference. He's a real trooper. Well done, lads. Villa's defence was good, but not that good. We got there in the end. Mark Albrighton, big reception from the Aston Villa fans, shows what a classy pro he is.
What more can I say about Mark Albrighton? You know, he's probably the one player in Brendan Rodgers' squad that can, count himself very, very unlucky. He's done nothing wrong ever since I started watching him. And more often than not, he's been the catalyst for Leicester getting 3 points in any given game. But he gets on with it, doesn't he? He's just one of those pros that just nothing seems to faze him. He doesn't change his game. Whether he's playing well or whether he's just having a hard day at the office, which sometimes he does when his cross and ours passing doesn't come off. You know exactly what you're going to get from him off the ball, especially. There's no one that works harder than Mark Albrighton. So, I think that's a nice touch from Brendan, because he hasn't used them a lot this season.
He must be the ideal squad player. You know, when you think, well, I've got to pick 18 players, and you must think to yourself, well, I actually only got to pick 17. Because Mark Albrighton will always be in my 18. If he's on the subs bench, he ain't going to moan. He's not going to be knocking on my door. If I start him, you know what you're getting. And if you bring him on as a sub, you know what you're getting. And he must be a joy as a manager. He's a real good team squad player, and he's a really good player, great player to come on and give you options.
Yeah, Jerry mentioned the off-the-ball stuff, but you could see as soon as he got on the ball straight away, he's looking, isn't he? He knows that he wants to try and create something, and he backs his own quality. He does, and more often than not, he'll get the ball in the box for Jamie Vardy. How many times we've seen them over the years have that link up? I'm sure he's created several assists or double figures easily for Jamie Vardy alone. So, like TC says, I'm sure Brendan Rodgers, he must think Michael Brighton's a dream to have in his squad. Have that sort of professional in your dressing room to call upon. And like I said, more often than not, he produces the goods, whether it's from the start or from the bench.
I think one slight issue, just looking in from a forwards point of view, just at times I felt there wasn't enough bodies in the box. If you're looking to put the crosses in, then you can't just have Jamie Vardy. Once they broke down the right hand side, Leicester went to put the cross in, and there was 5 Aston Villa defenders and 1 Jamie Vardy. That was it. And as good as he is, he's not going to get too many goals from crosses like that. I just felt at times, and perhaps it was a little bit of going back to where you play the 3 at the back. And sometimes you can end up with 3 centre-halves marking the 1 centre-forward, which means you're 1 light in midfield, which means that the one who should be getting in the box is now playing in midfield, and there's a reluctance to get forward. So, again, I think tactically, just for that second leg, I know it's, 3 weeks away, whatever it is, but it's one. It really will be one that Brendan will think long and hard about whether to play 3 centre-halves in the return leg or whether to go back to what Tag said, the back four, which I think suits the fullbacks better. We've got 2 fantastic football players, fullbacks at this club. They're brilliant going forward and that. And I think if you play a back four, then that then helps, and it then also helps with midfield runners and getting more bodies in the box, and obviously playing the counter-attacking game that they've got to play at Villa Park.
He played 2 up at Villa Park last time out, Tags. And
yeah, he did.
It worked an absolute treat.
It worked a treat, and it's probably another reason why, you've seen him going back to this today. And, obviously Villa were the team on that day that learnt a very harsh and valuable lesson, and it showed tonight. I think, again, we're so used to seeing Jamie Vardy playing up front on his own, and then when someone comes along, it's about complimenting Jamie. And I said we didn't see that in the first 15, 20 minutes because we're playing alongside each other. And it's okay, TC, he played with Emile Heskey, so you've got a big man, the small man, or a target man, so to speak, or someone who'll run the channels and someone who'll get himself into the box. Neither of those two are like that. They're both, and so we know Iose Perez is someone who likes to come off, come deep, they'll link it, one-touch layoffs, make a run. And then that third man pass goes into Vardy, who's made a run into the channel. We didn't see that early on in the game. It's only when Perez started coming in a little bit deeper, touching off, little flicks round the corner, then, the likes of Maddison getting on the ball. That's when we started to see a little bit of joy. That's when we've seen Vardy go 3-1-on-1. Yep. Keeper makes a good save. That's that's the only chance you need in a game like this tonight to get you on the score sheet. So that's what we need to see more of. He did play with Iheanacho at Villa Park, and I give him man of the match that day. Iheanacho, I thought he was excellent, but tonight he's gone with Iose Perez, so maybe a bit of food for thought there for Brendan.
You're listening to LCFC Radio. It's finished Leicester City 1, Aston Villa 1 in the first leg of the League Cup semi-final. If you missed any of the action, let's go through it again.
Whether it be a Premier League trophy presentation, a Champions League night, or even a more sombre occasion, King Power Stadium knows how to host a big occasion for the Blue Army. A first semi-final for 20 years is about to unfold. 16 yards from the Villa goal, it comes back to Pratt. It's Perez again, he's got a shot in, and it's only just wide. Leicester claim a deflection, it will be a corner. That was very, very close to the opener. Rounded out again, but he's managed to find Jamie Vardy. This could be a chance for Jamie Vardy. Saved by Nyland, just inside the 6-yard area again at the angle. But stood firm, the goalkeeper didn't go down and didn't give Vardy too many options, and in the end they shot striking the Norwegian. Grealish is away down the right-hand side, support either side of him as he gets to the edge of the area. Tries to roll one into the penalty area, so Iheanacho on the stretch. Able to get the ball partially clear, but Villa still have it on the far side with Trezeguet. It's a chip ball in, and it's come through to Gilbert, and Aston Villa against the run of play strike first in this League Cup semi-final. Grealish, right footage, Michael coming but not getting there, and it's bounced off the bar, and Villa nearly found a second just before half-time. Heady clear, it's Maddison, right side of the penalty area, 18 yards out, left footed shot, Mings rising to head the ball over his own bar, half-time. And the Foxes go in, a goal down at the break. Leicester push slightly back, but now they come forward. Maddison, edge of the area, Ricardo, back to Maddison, opens up, Maddison, great save, and then cleared away by Courtney House. First big opportunity for the Foxes in this half, and it came the way of James Maddison, who scored in his last 3 League Cup ties. There is a yellow card with Comter. Time wasted, twice he attempted to take the free kick, and on both occasions as he got to the ball, step back, Vardy looking for Iheanacho, Kelechi Iheanacho, it's 1-1! We're all square again at King Power Stadium, and it's that man Kelechi Iheanacho, once again with his 6th of the season, he's 3rd in the League Cup, it just fell kindly to him. Left hand side about 7 yards out, and he has lashed it on Nyland, who seemed unbeatable in this game. Some vital saves made by the Norwegian goalkeeper, but Iheanacho comes off the bench and provides Leicester with an equaliser. It's 1-1. Albrighton winning the ball back 20 yards from the Villa goal. Vardy edge of the area, back to goal, lined up for Maddison. Thought Vardy might turn and shoot himself, but felt that Maddison was in a better position. Vardy with the assist for the first goal, nearly teed up Maddison, but he shot way off target and into the cop as Ricardo breaks up the Villa play. That's a 1-2 with Maddison, and Ricardo is over the halfway line, only Vardy ahead of him. Vardy making a diagonal run. Jamie Vardy off the outside of the post, and so close to the Foxes. Taking an advantage late in this game. A storming run from Ricardo, a wonderful run from Vardy, which Ricardo picked out right of the 18-yard area, got his shot in, but struck the outside of the post and fell for a goal kick. We reconvene in a few weeks, and pretty much as you were, because it's 1-1 here at King Power Stadium. Kelechi Iheanacho coming off the bench and with one of his first touches provided what could be a crucial equaliser in this tie.
Your place for all the big moments. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
All level going into that second leg of the semi-final of the League Cup. Leicester 1, Aston Villa 1. It finished at King Power Stadium tonight. Ushma says, should have sealed it tonight. It will be tough at Villa, but since when did Foxes take the easy route? I'm nervous, but Foxes can do it. Wayne says, get the first goal at Villa, then I can see a familiar result to the league game, as they'll have to come forward and we'll hurt them on the counter. 70% possession tonight, and it's always hard against a parked bus. It will be the same on Saturday. Southampton will come for a point, and we need to find a way to win against negative tactics. Well, we said earlier, Brendan has plans A, B and C, and tonight it will be a case of, maybe we need a plan D at times.
Yeah, at times, but I think with modern day football management, I think you need to think on your feet. I think you need to have different plans. I think the days where, like 4-4-2 and you carried on, we've got good players, that doesn't happen anymore. We see managers more regularly now if things are going against the team. It used to happen very, very rarely in the old days, but even after half an hour, managers aren't afraid to take a player off. It must be the worst thing ever, coming off after 30 minutes, but if it's best for the team, the managers are doing it now. So I think Brendan deserves credit. Since he's arrived at the club, he's tried different tactics, different formations. He's tried 2 up front, he's tried 3 at the back, 4 at the back, he's tried different sorts of midfields, and he's still, I think he's the whole time as a manager, you're learning, because the thing with football and the beauty of football is every game's different. So you're never, I know they had a wonderful run, didn't they, Leicester? What was it, 7-8 wins on the trot, whatever it was on that, which is great because you pick the same team and that. But when you get to the stage where you've got injuries or key players out or whatever, then you've got to play different formations, different things. You've got to think on your feet. And yes, he might well need to develop a plan D, but, there's not a lot wrong, is there? The club's in the top 4, going, great position for Champions League, still in it for the semi-final of the League Cup with a great chance of getting through to the final. So there's not a lot wrong, but as a manager, you're not going to get everything right. It's impossible. Sometimes you make a call, it might not be the right call, but the key thing is to recognise if you've made, not so much a wrong call, but if you've made something that's not quite working for the team as a manager, and then you go, bang, change it, which he did. And this, fair play, half-time, he did, a lot of managers I know who just go, I'll stick with it, lads, give it the 60 minutes and all that rubbish. He didn't. He made the change, very positive, and you can't say anything other than the change that Chowdhury made a huge impact on the game.
The big thing for Leicester City now, of course, is not to actually think too much about that second leg. There's a lot of football to play before that, of course, starting with Southampton on Saturday. Then it's a trip to Turf Moor to play Burnley. Then West Ham come for a Wednesday night game before the next round of the FA Cup against Brentford. There's a lot of football, a lot can happen. Some more injuries may well get picked up. Other people might start shining in a different way. So actually, talking about what are we going to do for the next leg is kind of irrelevant. Yeah,
it's just one big boiling pot, isn't it? And it's all going along really nicely, as TC says. So not a lot for Brendan to worry about. People will come into form, people will go out of form. Again, I'll go back to what we were talking about before the game was whether he's changed formations, whether he's changed personnel. On the whole, it's worked out really well for Brendan Miller as far as the results and the performances have been concerned. So there's not a lot to worry about. You know, you've got to give Villa credit for the way they stood up. You know, they were worth a point. They were worth a draw, just about, probably. You know, they did have one other really good chance that could have flown in the back, and that would have made it 2-0. If that goes in, then Leicester are scrambling. So you've got to say on the basis of overall, then a draw's a decent result, and it's not the end of the world because we know there's a lot more to come from this team.
West Ham on Friday night for Sheffield United. That'll be a tough game. Obviously, new boss in at West Ham, Richard.
Yeah, they've certainly picked up since he's come in, haven't they? They've got a couple of results. So yeah, it proves to be an interesting one. TC tells me it'll be a tough game, so I trust him, and we'll see what happens on Friday.
Yeah, obviously a team that Leicester are going to be facing quite soon as well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they made the managerial change, which was needed at the football club. They had an excellent result against Bournemouth, albeit what is a poor Bournemouth team at the moment. We know that, but it was still their biggest Premier League win for about 10, 12 years, I think, West Ham. So, to get 4 goals was a great result. They then followed that up with a very professional performance against Gillingham. Struggled in the first half on a poor pitch, but second half, they was excellent. They really was. So, they will go to Sheffield United and, they'll fancy their chances a lot more than what they would have done 2 weeks ago under Pellegrini. I think under Pellegrini, if you'd have been playing West Ham, it would have been definite 3 points for Sheffield United. But as it is, it'll be a tough game, and it'll be the same when they come to the KP. They'll be well organised under David Moyes, and they've got some real flair players as well, so they will cause problems for both clubs.
For Leicester City, tag Southampton come here on Saturday. It's going to be a very different game, I'm imagining, to last time the sides met.
I think you can probably safely say that, to be honest, Lewis. Well, we all know what happened. I think it was last season when Southampton came. They did a job.
Midweek.
Went away with 3 points after going down to 10 men, I think, if memory serves me right. And then obviously TC's first co-coms for the club away at Southampton. Well, the 9-0. So I'd be very surprised if that happens again. They've sort of picked up slightly, haven't they, Southampton?
Done well, yeah. Danny Ings scoring lots of goals.
So they've got to
that's
pick
a
up a couple
dangerous
of
game
results
for Leicester because, we know as players, and if you get battered somewhere, it's the worst feeling in the world, and you can't wait for the return fixtures to put it right. It's going to be a really tough game.
Well, Richard, good luck Friday. Thank you for your time. Tags, we'll see you at the weekend. Tony, thank you for being part of tonight as well. So it is all square, just like it was 20 years ago, going into that second leg for Leicester City against Aston Villa. Should we do it all again at the end of the month? In the meantime, we'll see you Saturday.
Vardy looking for Iheanacho. Kelechi Iheanacho! It's 1-1! We're all square again at King Power Stadium, and it's that man Kelechi Iheanacho once again with his 6th of the season. He's 3rd in the League Cup. It just fell kindly to him. Left-hand side, about 7 yards out, and he has lashed it beyond Nyland, who seemed unbeatable in this game. Some vital saves made by the Norwegian goalkeeper, but Iheanacho comes off the bench and provides Leicester with an equaliser. It's 1-1.
For more in-depth analysis, reaction and extended highlights, head to lcfc.com.